NET we can say, that is language disorders. Language disorders are of two types, acquired and developmental. Acquired means after the full acquisition of the first language. That is, as I said earlier, once the person has acquired completely, the language is perfect, he was using it perfectly, but due to misfortune has resulted in some brain damage due to illness, accident or surgery, anything, some brain damage occurs after acquiring the language completely. Then he have lost some parts of the language, or then he is having problem with the language. This is known as acquired language disorder. After acquisition, that is after completing the acquisition, there is language problem. Now, developmental language disorder is manifested itself during the acquisition of first language. While the child is developing, as we have seen the stages of language development, during the stages itself, the child is showing developmental disorders. It is not after completely acquiring, after 5 years or complete acquisition, something happened, some mishappening happened to the brain and the child has having the problem with language. It is during this developmental stage itself, child is showing language disorders or language problems. This is known as developmental language disorder. Now, acquired disorder, the main thing is aphasia. Aphasia is a cover term actually for language deficit caused by brain damage or injury. It is not, aphasia is not like one. There are different types of aphasia. So it is a cover term for any language deficit that is caused by brain damage or injury. First one is global aphasia. Ability to communicate with language wholly impaired due to the lesion in the left hemisphere of the brain. Person is not able to properly communicate using the language or his language. This is known as global aphasia. In any manner, not able to communicate using the language. Next one is Broca's aphasia. This is associated with Broca's area. Broca's aphasia is also known as expressive, non-fluent or motor aphasia. Is a language disorder that affects the person's ability to speak and write fluently. That is why it is known as non-fluent aphasia. Broca's aphasia is expressive or non-fluent because we are not able to fluently express our ideas or we are not able to fluently speak. That is why it is known as non-fluent aphasia. While comprehension often remains intact. We are not able to produce or express what we have to tell, but what others tells to us, we are able to comprehend. This is Broca's aphasia. The characteristics of Broca's aphasia is that speech is very slow, non-fluent and effortful or deliberate. Characterized by agrammatism, that is all the grammatical elements may be deleted. Then telegraphic speech, same grammatical elements are deleted. Then preservation. Omit grammatical markers. Speech carries only major meaning or carrying nouns and verbs in the sentences. That is telegraphic speech. Then repetition of words. Certain words or the content words will be repeated. This is known as preservation. That happens in Broca's aphasia. Then naming deficit, anomia, also happens in Broca's aphasia. Next one is Wernicke's aphasia. Lesion is in Wernicke's area. Wernicke's aphasia, also known as receptive fluent aphasia or sensory aphasia. Receptive, fluent, sensory. Before it was non-fluent, expressive. Here it is receptive. The person who is receptive means our comprehension is impaired. Whereas in other sense, our expression was impaired, comprehension was intact. In Wernicke's aphasia, our comprehension, what others tell, we are not able to understand properly. It is impaired. That is known as Wernicke's aphasia. It is fluent aphasia. What I tell in a fluent or proper pitch of a language, everything. It is a sensory aphasia. It is a neurological language disorder characterized by difficulty in understanding speech and reading as well as producing meaningful language, and despite the ability to speak fluently. Producing meaningful language. See, here One, the person is not able to understand what is being said to him or what is being read, what is he or she is not able to properly comprehend. Then he is also not able to produce meaningful language. He is able to produce fluent language but not meaningful language. What he say is a fluent in language pattern only he is telling, or he is talking in the pace or pitch and intonation, everything of a language, like a proper sentence he is talking, but it is not a proper sentence, it is not meaningful. So individual with Wernicke's aphasia may speak long grammatically correct sentences but that lacks what? Meaning. Long sentences, he may talk and talk and talk, but that would not have what? Meaning in it. Contain nonsensical words. Words may be there, but that words may not be it will sound like a word, but it may not be a word of that language. That is known as nonsensical language. The pace and intonation of speech are spared. The properly, like how English person will speak, he is speaking. Pace and intonation is spared, but it is meaningless. Use elaborate description instead of simple words, that is known as circumlocution. Wernicke's aphasia also has the circumlocution. In earlier, anomia happens that the person is not able to properly say the word, but here instead of telling that particular word, the person beats on the bunches, like gives description, explains things, and sentences he say for a one single word. He want to tell a ball, he will be describing that a round object which goes roll and roll and roll, which child uses to play, but this meaning won't be there. That is known as circumlocution. Now he also would create nonsensical or new words that may not be words of that language. All such happens in Wernicke's aphasia. Next is conduction aphasia. Conduction aphasia is a rare form of aphasia characterized by impaired repetition of words, phrases or sentences despite relatively fluent speech and good comprehension. The only problem here is the person is not able to repeat. Conduction aphasia, this fluency is there, then comprehension is also good, the person is producing meaningful things, everything is paired, but he is not able to repeat. What is being said, he is not able to repeat. That is the only problem with conduction aphasia, caused by the damage in articulate fascicle. Arcuate fascicle is damaged here. Broca's aphasia, Broca's area, Wernicke's aphasia, Wernicke's area. Here arcuate fascicles which connects to the brain hemispheres, we can say. Speech production and comprehension is spared. Much issue is not there in the case of speech production and comprehension, but the main problem is repetition. Next one is anomia. Anomia is characterized by difficulty in finding right word. This happens in other two type of aphasia also. Right word is not able to be found. Word to say or write despite being able to speak fluently and understand the language well. The person is able to speak fluently, the person is able to comprehend the language well, but what happens is that he is not able to pick up the right words. Example as I gave, when I have to tell ball, I am not able to get the right word for that. It is ball or whether it is bat. I am not able to properly get the right word. That is known as anomia or anomic aphasia. It often describes word finding problem where the person might have word on the tip of their tongue. Like, we know, I know, but I am not able to get that word. This is known as anomic aphasia. This can lead to using vague terms or describe the object. Like circumlocution we have seen, describe the object instead of naming them. Next is dysarthria. Dysarthria is a motor speech disorder caused by impaired muscle control, impacting the strength and speed and coordination of the movement that is needed in speech production. The proper coordination of these muscles, our muscles should produce it properly. Speech disorder, it is a motor speech disorder, not able to properly control our muscles. This is the problem with dysarthria. This can result in speech that is cluttered or sometimes slow, sometimes unclear, and difficulty in understanding even if the person knows exactly what he wants to say. There is no problem with production, there is no problem with comprehension. The person knows what I have to say. There is no anomia. He knows the word, everything. But what happens is that he is not able to properly control the muscles. This is what is known as dysarthria. Due to interruption or transmission of message controlling the motor activity from the nervous system of the muscle. This is because of the transmission of message. Here the main problem is interruption is there in the transmission of brain muscles are not properly brain is not properly sending signals. That is the problem. Transmission of message controlling the motor activity is not properly done. That is known as dysarthria. Something very related to this is apraxia. Refers to the inability to generate the motor program for speech production. Here the problem is not able to generate. Brain is sending the signal, no problem with that, but it is not able to generate the motor program, then it is known as apraxia. Apraxia is a neurological condition that causes, here it was, dysarthria was a motor speech disorder, whereas apraxia is a neurological condition that causes difficulty with planning and coordinating the movement. Difficulty with planning and coordinating the movement despite having normal muscle strength and coordination. Muscles are not having, the signal is not having, but generation is the problem. It's essentially a problem with the brain's ability to translate through the actions. Brain's ability to translate thought into action. That is the main problem. Thought is there, but to create it into action, it is the problem. This can be affected by various aspects of movement, including speed, speech, everything is being affected by apraxia. Next is dyslexia. The most important one, it is dyslexia. It is a neurodevelopmental disorder. Neurodevelopmental disorder is known as dyslexia. It is primarily affects the reading and writing skill. It is also termed as reading disorder, or dyslexia is termed as reading disorder also, but it affects both reading and writing skill. It's the learning disability where the individual struggle with decoding words, spelling, mathematical ability, reading comprehension despite having average intelligence and educational opportunity. Though the child is having average intelligence or everything is fine, but the child is facing difficulty with or struggles to decode words, spelling, mathematical ability. Different types of dyslexias are there. This is known as dyslexia. Dyslexia is not a sign of low intelligence or vision problem, or rather a different brain, how the brain process language. It is just a difference in how brain process language, and not a sign that the child is a fool or child is not having a low intelligence. It is just the difference how brain process language. Then it is also sometimes said that, or recently it has been to an extent experimentally proved that there is a particular gene associated with dyslexia, and it is termed as DCDC2, that is neurobrain domain containing 2. Not recently asked, but just for information. Now there are different types of dyslexia, that is phonological dyslexia. First one, phonological dyslexia. This is a type involves difficulty in phonological processing, the ability to recognize and manipulate sound of a spoken language. Individual with phonological dyslexia struggles to decode words and spell correctly. Ability to read pronounceable non-words is impaired. That is, the person is not able to phonologically process. The processing of phonological processing is the main difficult area for this person. Manipulate sound into spoken languages. When certain pronounceable non-words would be there in every language. Like that is not a word in that language, but we can read that. Matching up the letter by letter, we can read it. Such things will be very difficult for a phonological dyslexic person. Next is deep dyslexia. Is a rare and severe acquired reading disorder that occurs after brain damage, that is trauma especially. One second. Sorry. Please.
Okay.
Sure. Tata. Sorry for breaking. So, deep dyslexia is a rare, severe, acquired reading disorder that occurs after brain damage. That is, after a stroke or sometimes a trauma, there is some brain damage, that is especially in left hemisphere. This results in deep dyslexia. The person, what happens here is characterized by multiple types of reading errors. The semantic errors, especially different words with different related meaning. He changes. It is like cat and dog. The person is not able to perceive the semantic differences. Related, right? Cat and dog both are animals with four legs. So he interchanges. Instead of using cat, he uses dog. Instead of using dog, he uses a cat or maybe horse, anything. Semantically related meaning instead of using the correct word. That happens in deep dyslexia. Then saying words that look similar, visually similar. Instead of cat, he can say pat or rat. That is visually similar, like table, tablet. Visually similar things, almost related things. The person with this deep dyslexia shifts. Then also uses words with grammatical forms like irgrammatical forms, run instead of run, runner. All this happens. The semanticity is interrupted in deep dyslexia. It is a severe, actually it is a bit severe in reading disorder. Instead of, while reading, she shifts the words from one word to another. This is known as deep dyslexia. Next is auditory dyslexia. Auditory dyslexia and visual dyslexia, these goes together. Auditory dyslexia is where the core issue lies in decoding the sounds in spoken language. Mapping sound and letter. That is the main problem in auditory language. The people have problem in grapheme, phoneme, correspondence, phonic analysis, that is combining sounds to make one word, also phonic synthesis. One word cannot be decoded into its different different sounds. It is not possible for auditory dyslexia. Like when I hear cat, I am not able to equate C-A-T, ka, C-A, to T. I am not able to equate that. This is auditory dyslexia. Grapheme, phoneme, correspondence, phonic analysis, I am not able to split. Then I am also not able to synthesize, put together. This is auditory dyslexia. Visual dyslexia or orthographic dyslexia is a type of visual processing, where the visual processing of words or making it hard to recognize and remember the visual shapes of letters and words, have problem in processing, recalling and interrupting visual images. I am not able to understand D is this and P is this. This visual image is not being able to process, recall and again reproduce. I am not able to do this, then it is known as visual dyslexia. The difference is not perceived visually. Written language, visual shapes and letters are not being properly. The difficulty in analyzing or processing this visual things is known as visual dyslexia. Now, mixed dyslexia is the combination of both auditory dyslexia and visual dyslexia. Graphemes, I am not able to properly perceive the grapheme phoneme difference. At the same time, I am not able to visually understand what is the difference between the two letters. This is known as mixed dyslexia. Double deficit dyslexia. This type combines difficulties with both the phonological and orthographic processing, almost similar to mixed dyslexia, decoding, reading and fluency. Now, rapid naming dyslexia is individual with the type struggle to quickly name object, even though they can read and spell them. It is just that when I quickly ask something, they are not able to name. Otherwise, they will properly do everything. If given their own time, they will read it properly. But when it is time bound, when it is said to be said quickly, recall something faster, they are having naming issues. That is rapid naming dyslexia. Next is surface dyslexia. This type is characterized by difficulty with whole word recognition. Here whole word is the problem, whereas here it was in combination. Graph and phoneme combination was the problem. Whole word recognition, especially words that do not follow typical sound spelling pattern. Different from visual dyslexia. Here what happens is that I am not able to visually process the images, letters or everything. I am not visually able to process it. I am not able to recall and reproduce. Here what happens is a whole word. The whole word, not just one grapheme or letter, the whole word recognition, especially the words that do not follow typical sound spelling pattern. Sound spelling pattern, if not followed, I am not able to properly understand or recognize that language. When det, we don't pronounce the b in det. So what happens is that I have heard it as det and I have written it as debt. I am not able to perceive or I am not able to understand that word as det. This is the problem. Height, then kernel, all such, yach, not able to process. When the spelling sound or sound spelling pattern is not followed, I am not able to perceive that whole word. This is known as surface dyslexia. Peripheral dyslexia is type of reading disorder that arises due to the problem in visual processing system before the actual word is recognized or processed linguistically. Visual processing system before the actual word is recognized, like different from that of surface dyslexia. Peripheral dyslexia is usually divided into more specific types, that is attention dyslexia, neglect dyslexia, letter by letter dyslexia and visual dyslexia comes under this. Next is dysgraphia. I'm moving a little faster because our time has been done. Dysgraphia, it is a writing disorder. The problem with handwriting or sequencing, orthographic, everything comes under dysgraphia. I have to write, either my handwriting is issue, then sequencing, letter to letter sequencing is a problem, orthography is a problem, all such things becomes problem in dysgraphia. Next is snisophasia. The word salad which we say, it is snisophasia, unintelligible mixing of random words and phrases. In my conversation or my writing, I mix unintelligibly, I mix different words that is not actually necessary for creating that particular sentence. Then it is known as snisophasia. I just want to say I love ice cream. Instead of that, I will mix random words. I love, instead I like, I love, I like, I eat, all such things. I mix all different words. Then it is known as snisophasia. Finally producing an unintelligible output. Agnosia. Agnosia is a neurological condition where a person loses the ability to recognize familiar object, person or sound. Recognition is the problem in agnosia. I know that thing. I know what it is, but I am not able to recognize it. Then it is known as agnosia. The sound of my pet, I know that is my pet, or the sound of my mother. I know, I am very familiar with that, but I am not able to recognize. Then it is known as agnosia. This impairment is not due to memory loss or language problem. when we are not able to recognize someone very familiar to us, we feel that we are having a memory problem. It is not that. Language problem, no. Lack of familiarity with the stimulus, it is also not because of that. It is inability to recognize the signal that is being sent to the brain. Brain is not able to recognize the signal that is being sent to it. That is the problem with agnosia. Next is echolalia. Echolia or echolalia is the repetition of words or phrases spoken by others. In a conversation, when someone tells me something, I have to give him the answer, or I have to say what I have to say. Instead of that, what I do is that I repeat what the person has told me. Even sometimes immediately, sometimes later, not immediately. Sometimes with the purpose, functional, that I want to go. When I keep repeating, I want to go, I want to go, I want to go, it means that I want to go. Sometimes it is unfunctional. I want to eat, I'm hungry, I'm hungry, I'm hungry, I'm hungry. Might be he is eating, still unhungry, unhungry. That happens in echolalia. Repetition. Keeps repeating something that is being said to you, or said immediately or said before. A person with echolalia echoes what they hear either immediately or after delay, instead of generating their own original speech. Condition where echolalia is common is autism, then aphasia, then Tourette syndrome, schizophrenia, everywhere, like mental retardation. Here are the places we have echolalia. Next is logorrhea. Logorrhea is a communication disorder resulting in incoherent talkativeness. I keep talking. Here the other person keep repeating, whereas the logorrhea, we keep talking, but incoherent talking, not associated with something that is happening, or not associated with one thing. I have already told I am not talking something that is not at all associated with that particular thing. I am in a how particular context I am talking something that is totally unrelated to the context. All such things, then it is known as logorrhea. That is incoherent talkativeness. Keeps on talking. Next is sluttering or cluttering. Stuttering and cluttering, same related. Here, sluttering and cluttering are both types of fluency disorder that cause interruption in the flow of speech, but they differ in their underlying cause and characteristics. Sluttering is characterized by repetition of sounds or words, prolongation and blocks, often accompanied by physical tension. Sluttering is characterized by repetition of sounds or words. We all have this sluttering. We would have all observed. When we have to tell something, or somebody have to tell something, they keep repeating pa 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 pa, or even the entire word will be repeated. I want to go. This is known as sluttering. Whereas cluttering, on the other hand, is marked by rapid, irregular speech, disorganized language, and lack of awareness of speech difficulty. When I am saying something very speed, I omit lot of things. Every speech have its own pace, right? Instead of keeping that pace in cluttering, I say something in a very faster way. The other hand, it is marked by rapid, irregular. This is known as cluttering. In between, I omit something. In between, I put just sounds. This is cluttering. Very rapidly, I am telling something. Then, what happens? It becomes irregular. I omit lot of things, and it becomes incomprehensible. Sluttering is repetition, whereas cluttering is rapid speed. Next is language in autism. Autism or language exhibit diverse communication styles. Some we have already seen, echolalia, everything happens, with some demonstrating typical language development, while others exercise significant delay in language difficulties. In autism, every child's language development is not always delayed. Some have proper language development, some have very delayed, some people doesn't even communicate. Echolalia is there. Then might have trouble in social communication, including understanding non-verbal clues, and may struggle with conversation or turn taking. They don't take turns usually. Then following complex instruction, everything is impaired in language autism. Language in schizophrenia. Schizophrenia is a mental disorder that results in that language of communication dysfunction. It is the severe mental disorder that affects the thought, perception, and communication. One of its key symptoms is disordered language, often reflecting the underlying disorganized thinking. The person is not properly comprehend or properly arrange his thinking. That happens in schizophrenia. That is why his language is disoriented. Disoriented thinking or disorganized thinking is the result of disoriented language in schizophrenia. Language in schizophrenia is not just about the speech content, but also about how language is structured, processed, and produced. That also associates with what? His thinking. Not just a language, it is always associated with the schizophrenia person's disorganized thinking. Disorganized speech reflects the broken down or logical connection between the thoughts. Very limited or minimal speech. Some people would just speak very limitedly or would just say few words. They would not complete the sentence. They would not have any structure or organization. They may leave it in between. This happens in schizophrenia language. Next is poverty in content. People speak but it will not have the meaning or substance. They may speak but what is to be said is not there in their language. Then delayed response, would not have proper response. Turn taking, see, would not be there. Then echolalia would be there. All these are the instances of language in schizophrenia. So this was the main thing I intended to cover in this session, mainly about developmental areas and also about clinical psycholinguistics. If you are having any doubt in this particular